half of the SLERD board because I am an SLERD board member. But before, I used to be a university professor, and now I'm retired. To introduce this open debate, I started by my own experience. When I was at the Free University of Bolzano, at some point we received a request from our student representatives. They wanted to have something to add to their curriculum because they thought that they invested a lot of energy in this task of being student representative, and they needed some recognition. And the first answer that came was, well, but there is a rector decree that appointed you as a student representative. And I said, well, first of all, we can fake this rector decree by using Photoshop and writing whatever we please. Second, assuming that some employee that is looking at our CV has patience enough to go to the university website and find out our name in the rector's decree, it doesn't say what we have learned by being the student representative. And this is where my university started a long path towards being able to certify things which are outside the formal recognition, the formal learning on which universities are quite proficient. And actually, we decided to go for the open badge approach, but it took changing a little bit the structure of our information system where student careers were hosted. And I retired before this was completed. Now I understand that some time has passed and our panelists have experienced a more modern approach to this problem, which exists almost everywhere in any formal training university or high school or whatever. And it is important for bridging together what is the formal learning and the non-formal and informal learning in an approach which brings towards lifelong learning. So I invite my panelists, if they agree, to start presenting their experience. And if they can stay within, say, 15 minutes, we will have a second round where I will invite them to speak about the future of microcredential and blockchain and whatever is now available for our formal and informal learning recognition. The first panelist will be Carlos Alvarez. He is an electronics and telecommunication engineer from the University of Aveiro with a specialization in quality engineer. He started his professional activities in 1986 and now divides his time by several companies, of which he is a manager. He is a member also of the board of the School of Technology and Management and the Department of Electronics, Telecommunication and Informatics of the University of Aveiro and UN Ambassador for the Sustainable Development Goals. Please, Carlos, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for the invitation to be here with you today. I come to talk a little bit of my experience for the continued needs for training. My name is Carlos Alves. I have a degree in electronics, but over 25 years, I have been working more in the management and quality also. I'm administrator for several companies, but today I'm just talking a little bit about the GFA. I don't know what happened. It's not. Okay. Use electronics in our day life. It's in our house when we get up in the morning, when we go to the office. I usually say that electronics is everywhere, and we build it here in the HFA. We assemble boards for telecommunications. In Portugal today, if you make a call or if you are surfing in the web, certainly you are using boards assembled by HFA. We also assemble boards that are being in France and the United States and India. And another areas that we have is transport. Transport is not only cars, it's also bus and trains. And the big players in Europe use our boards. Boards for lighting, boards for control the electronics inside the bus on the train. It's like a copilot. They control the number of passengers that entering and leaving the bus, control the CCTV cameras. But for cars, we use always also boards to control the opening and closing the windows, for example. We assemble boards for electronics in general, is customers who are neither telecom nor transport. Here we have a lot of different products like home automation, Internet of Things, set-top box for TV, lighting systems, payment systems, boards for astronomy, for example, for telescopes, gas stations, security, and so on. We also have an area to repair and refurbishment. In Portugal, the box that we have in our house for TV or for a web, a home gateway, is not ours. It's from the operator, telecom operator. If they have a problem, they change for another one and send the bus to us to repair. And we work for several brands like Motorola, Cisco, Thomson, and so on, and also the operators in Portugal, and not only in Portugal, but now only in Portugal, but we are also in the Latin America and German. We are beginning to do this. Some pictures of our office is at HFA. The layout of the production lines is all automatically, and they have one or two persons control the line. Another view, another. This is the control. All the boards are tested, and you must have a control. And we think we are the right choice because we have capacity to innovate. In this our area, we don't do development of products. We only assemble, but we work together with the people that are development in our group or outside our group with other clients. We have flexibility and we have a technical support. I think we are good in this field. And in this moment, we are 650 persons. We need people with flexibility to work because we have around 400 different products during a year. And we need to have people, collaborators to prepare the line, to create the tests, routines, to test the quality of the system. And also we have flexibility and mass production. We can assemble only one board for a client, but we can assemble also 45,000 boards a week for another client. We have a capacity to assemble 2 million components by hour. Some pictures of our parties to create team building. We have a lot of fun and we always go to the parties. What kind of people we are looking for? If you have passion, work is like playing. It's a pleasure to work, and we want people with passion what they do. We used to say that success only came before working in dictionary. If in the real life, you must work very hard to have success. We want people who focus on their work because there are so much to do in our area that if we don't focus, we can't finish anything. Like I say, in JFA, we only produce. We have other companies that make the development, the projects. And when I was young, I read a sentence from Albert Einstein, and it became my mantra. Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. And we want people who have imagination, because imagination is the beginning of the innovation for us. We want to say, we want people who get better every day. Today I do better than yesterday, but tomorrow I'll do better than today. Is with the spirit of the quality improvement. We want people who are willing to serve the others. If we serve the others, we will be better persons, and we want to be a better world if we have better persons. And finally, we want people with resilience and persistence and the ability to work in team. Teamwork is very important because we don't do anything alone. We only need someone to help us to do it, and we can do nothing by ourselves. And in short, I look people with adaptability, which is nothing to more than accept the condition they find. Sometimes we have difficult customers. Automotive is a difficult customers, put a lot of pressure, and we need to be prepared for this. Concentration, what are you doing, and dedication, commitment, attitude. We reward our employees very well. We have a performance bonus. Every year we share a portion of the profits with them, and we have a good team. But we have problems like the other companies, because the people in this moment, the new generation, they think different for the older generation. And these guys are always connected. They are more flexible. They want to adapt better. I don't know what is in your country, but if in Portugal we have a lack of software engineers. We are competing with the other companies and the other countries and regions. And for example, when I talk with the Portuguese students, they want to go to Barcelona, not to Spain, but to Barcelona. They want to go to Berlin, not German, but Berlin. They want to go to London, not England. And we are here in Portugal, in the center of Portugal, near Aveiro. And sometimes it's very difficult to have good guys, good talents to work. Why lifelong training? We have, what I said previous is about the soft skills. But we have employees with 26 years of experience in cutting edge technologies. They don't have a university course. And we sometimes, like I say, we have 400 different products each year, and we need some people to be always in training, because every week we have a new project and the people need to be prepared. Here in my company, we encourage the employees to have training, but it is difficult for them to find technical course for that interest them. Sometimes because the hours, because the courses is in the work hour, and it's not possible people go out of the company during 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Sometimes we have many internal courses given by people that come from the automotive industry, who come to the company and give the training here, presential. But in many subjects, for example, programming language and artificial intelligence and so on, we will have to go to the university, but this collaborate cannot, because they don't ever attended the university. But they are the best in practice, not have the theory part, but they are good in this. For example, in Portugal, to go to the university, we need to go to have completed the secondary school and take an entrance exam. For people that have a lot of experience and want to have the theoretical part, these rules should be changed, because it's not possible for us. But the training has to be credible, because sometimes we send people to to Germany and Holland to have the course, because in Portugal we don't have. I put here a case study that we do with the University of Aveiro and also for the Employer Center to create skills in the Internet of Things. But we had a lot of problems. We have in some class students with the secondary is not completed. The ninth degree in the school is not completed. In the same class we have people with the master degree. Is not, and the training is the same for all. It's not they don't run very well because the criteria is only bureaucratic. We don't have, we have problems because the adjustable schedules, because the teachers don't want to provide training after hours and after hours works. And for us, it's difficult to send people to the class in this way. I think the use of new technologies for remote training may be the solution in this case today. Here in Portugal, the demand of is high and the supply is low. We have to treat the employees well. We have also problems in the ethics because I know some companies that invest a lot in the training of their employees, and after some time they leave for other companies. And this is why that some companies, not in the information technology area, but in the other areas, some companies are afraid to let their employees leave companies to take the course, because in the course they know the other guys, they know the salary for the others, and so on. And I think it's a stupid, but is the real love. I put here a sentence that if you think training is expensive, how much does incompetence cost? Is this normally what I say of the people that think from this way? I think we think that alone we can do nothing, and together we are more strong, and we create association we call Inovaria, and with Inovaria is, I think in this moment 85 companies, all from the IT sector and electronics, and we think that is the one way to resolve the issue of training, because we can put together some problems of all these companies, not only in the region of Alvarez, but from Lisbon, Porto, and Coimbra, and the association speaks on behalf of these companies. In this moment, in the region of this company, because I'm a member of the direction of Inovaria. In this region in Alves, I estimate that we need 215 engineers for programming at this time. And for example, we have a beautiful park for innovation and science in Aveiro. But when it was said that a new company is coming to Aveiro, and like there is already a lack of people, companies are getting ready to lose some of their staff. Because if don't have for us, if come another one, they hire our people. This is not only happens in our region; is in the whole country of Portugal. We have this problem in this area. We need people with skill in programming and information technology and electronics, because the market, like I say, need more persons. But the problem is not also alone. I make a study, and we have the same problem in all the community European, in Amsterdam, and Helsinki, and Copenhagen, and Munich, and Cochrane, in Milan. This is the numbers. I put here the numbers that the gap of people that they have, and need more people work. Like I say, in the information technology, this is my field. But here in this region from Aveiro, the problem is not this. Here is for people that have a lot of training and knowledge, but we need people for ceramics, for metallic companies, and so on. We don't have people. Sorry. But the problem is not only Europe. We have some problem in the United States. Here we have, I have here a graphic with the problems they want and they have. And I think to 256, the employee software developer is very low. To prepare this presentation, I talked with a little bit with another associations, not from the IT world, and the problems are a little bit different. Like I say, in the IT companies, it's normal to have training because the language, the electronics and the informatics is change very fast, and the people must have training and they are prepared. But in the other companies, is not the same. For example, the people, I put here some phrase that the resume that I talk with him. The problems is the work hours, one more time, because some of these people work after works. And if the class is during the day, it's not possible. But if it's after works, they lost money because they go to the class and not win more money. And this is not a good appeal for the employees. Some employees don't see the training as important because they don't contribute to their career with the company. Okay, it's good for the company because it's necessary for the workplace to do this, but for him, they don't grow up in the career inside of the company, and they don't like this. Some of the guys have a mentality that they think they know everything and don't need more training. But the big problem is the teachers, the professors speaks about examples of big companies. For example, if the student is from a small or medium company, the examples they are given are from Toyota, from McDonald's, from IBM, which cannot be applied in their company. It's different. And in Portugal, the trainings is very, very expensive. What do you need to improve? Okay, after the pandemic, the relationship between the interest part of the companies, the employees, the administration, so on, I think it will change. In industry like HFA is not possible. We need all the people here, but for example, the administration part, the logistics and the buyers can work a little bit by home. But normally, the IT companies that development software, they can work some days in house and some days in the company. I think we must think about this when we will prepare the trainings in the future. I think it's necessary more a fluid connection between universities and companies. There are a lot of startups that begin inside of the university. And some people look at the university as a competitors because the university today has products that respond to the market needs, and many companies see the university as a competitor because this. Another thing, the time from the university is not the time from the companies, because the companies, we need everything for yesterday because the market needs the things. I think the theme that we are talking here, the micro credentials or also the micro models, I put the same because I think it's a little bit different, but it's the same. I think the micro models are the way to respond to the needs of the companies, and with the support of new technologies, I think it will be easy to have compatible schedules, and perhaps we can record the class and share with the students after hours and the weekend and so on. But don't forget, if I want to make a class in the university, or I need to have a course, or we have to have an university course, and a lot of these people don't have a university course, and the training we provide inside of our companies is not recognized by the university. But I know that education and training are fundamental in our community, and it's not restricted to the school. It must also be lifelong training. I think micro models for specific terms. I check with some companies inside of Innovaria, and 6 weeks with 12 hours a week is a good, because it's not a long time out of the company, and the companies can share the employees to go to the training. Okay, next. Now I'm thinking what we can do in the future. What we need to do in the future. I think we must find new ways of financing, because some of the courses are very expensive. We send our people from our team, our company. I send people to German 2 weeks and to German, and it's expensive to have these guys outside. But sometimes in Portugal, the price is also very high if it's a specific theme, like quality, advanced quality systems, some new technology, language, programming language, and so on. I think we must find new ways of financing this. For example, in Portugal, if at this moment, if I want to attend a certain subject in a course, I need to pay the tuition fees for the full course. I think it's just, and I want only one subject, and I must pay for all the course. I think is a way that we must change in the future. I think we must develop partnership with the business. I think is the micro models are practical, must have practical. Because sometimes I think it's important that the teachers have experience to work with the people that are working in the companies. We must adjust our materials, because some classes and some courses that we send our people, they talk about different, the examples are not adjusted with our needs from our companies. I think we must learn with the other European initiatives, and we can share this experience. I talk with the professor with credits. Okay, I think we must have this possibility to have micro models by remote training. Also, I think the telematics is here and they work well, and we can improve this. We must have indicators. I think we must have indicators what the things are doing to check if we are in a good way, if it's necessary to change something, to compare with the other universities or other countries. And I think this is very, very, very important. I put here a phrase that increase volunteering with engineer students. Why? Because I have experience in the association, Overview Association, with the students and employees of our companies. We go to the schools, we can put schools to talk to the students, to motivate them to the science. Because when I talk with the students, and I'm a tutor for some guys here in primary school, secondary school, all the guys want to go to, for example, marketing. And I think last month I talked with 250 guys in different days of week, and 75% of the guys want to go to the university to work in study marketing. I think we don't have in the future jobs for all these people. We must, and for science, we have a lack of people. And now during the week, every week I go to the school and talk with the guys to try to get these guys to the science, not for electronics or for informatics, but science in general. The university here in Portugal, Alvarez, they have also already as an open day to captive students. We do the same in our companies. We here in the HFA, we were visited by students from secondary schools, and not only for this region, but also for distant cities. And I think we must involve all the community in this project. Not only the students. Some of them sometimes they don't. They have the course. They get the course. They have the degree, but it's not that they like to study. And we must go in talking in the secondary school with the parents, with the companies, with universities, and create a course that is adjusted for the needs of the guys, the students, but also for the needs for the companies. And I think I'm finished, and in the questions I'll talk a little bit more about other things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Carlos. I think you set the ground from the point of view of the stakeholder, the employers of the students, what they really need and what the university can provide them. So the next speaker is Soulla Louca from the University of Nicosia. She's a professor in the Department of Digital Innovation and the director of the Institute for the Future. She was nominated as one of the top 100 women in fintech for 2019. And with a background in computer science, she opened the first Master of Science worldwide in digital currency, the technology for publishing academic certificates on the blockchain. She's now leading the DLT for All Consortium, which is an Erasmus Plus project on designing and developing material on decentralized ledgers. And she's also taking part in the Horizon 2020 project Eunomia. Soulla, the floor is now yours. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Gabriella. And first of all, I would like to thank you all for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, even in the cyberspace. And I hope that next time we all meet is going to be face-to-face. And I also think that this past year, the way we have all been working, especially in the academia, is going to sort of direct also somehow where academia and teaching and online learning is going with the experiences that we've had with the pandemic. For the first 10 minutes or so, I will discuss a little bit on our use case at the University of Nicosia for issuing certificates on the blockchain. And actually, that was a very good introduction that you had, Gabriella, concerning fake certificates and degrees, because this is what we try to do to avoid all these different problems with fake degrees. And we believe that blockchain technology is, at this point in time, at least, one of the best tools that we have around. And for the second part, I will focus on micro-credentials. And actually, listening also to Carlos now, thank you for that presentation. You touched upon some very problems that we believe we have also within academia, and the relationship between academia, higher institutions, and the industry. And we need to bridge that gap that there is, because I do believe personally, in my opinion, that there is a gap between higher institutions and the industries and the companies. And very well, you've mentioned that as professors, many times we go into discussing use cases from very large companies. And, for a moment, I thought, my God, this is what I'm doing also. But I believe that one of the reasons that we do this is because we do not really have access as professors to the use cases from smaller industries, from smaller companies. So maybe this is something that we can discuss later on how we can look into that gap that there is. First, please allow me also to say a few words on who we are. The Institute for the Future was founded back in 2018 as a follow-up of the blockchain initiative that we started in 2014 with introducing the first master's degree in cryptocurrencies and also the issuing certificates on the blockchain, and actually the first course on an academic course on cryptocurrencies that has been taken so far by over 40,000 people all over the world, since it is offered online and it is free to everybody. The Institute for the Future, it is in three main pillars. The first one, it deals with the academic education and professional training. The second one with research and technology development. We are active in European projects as well as projects funded by the industry. And the third pillar deals with various conferences and events. And also part of our work deals with forecasting and artificial intelligence. So a brief introduction on blockchain, very briefly. As most of you know, blockchain was introduced back in 2008 by Satoshi Nakamoto, who actually nobody knows even at this point in time who this person is, as the underlying technology for Bitcoin. Its potential was soon realized by several industries for improving current practices and processes. So the main idea behind it is that once a record is added on the blockchain, it is impossible to change. We can only add new transactions, new records, as they are protected by one-way cryptographic functions. What's important about it is that it allows authenticated data communication between each player, each node in this sort of distributed ledger. And in other words, it removes all intermediaries. It enables people that don't trust each other, strangers, to directly trust each other. So to summarize, one can say that blockchain defines a single consensual record distributed across multiple nodes in a network. The details of each transaction are recorded in blocks in a digital ledger shared by all parties. In each block, all members or the majority must validate the transaction, and all involved have a copy of the records of the transactions, making the data alteration extremely difficult. Problems of the current credentialing and the situation that we are faced with now. Gabriella already has spoken about the problems that exist with face certificates, not only in academia. Law enforcement all around the world have already expressed their concerns about fake certificates regarding COVID vaccines, for example. These problems result in expensive and time-consuming issuance and verification processes by all the different parties involved. Recovery of lost or modified certificates can be impossible at times. So several issues surrounding the traditional credentials that we have. When it comes to blockchain certificates, back in 2014, 2015, actually, we issued the first certificates on the blockchain for the students that had successfully finished the first MOOC on cryptocurrencies. And the main idea behind it is that we have a PDF file, which actually represents the diploma, and is issued in batches on the blockchain. We issue them in batches so as to reduce the transaction costs. Certificates then can be validated using different types of verifiers and validators. We have our own validators, but we're using the Bitcoin blockchain where all transactions are public. So anyone can go, for example, a prospect employer can go on the Bitcoin Explorer and check the ID there of the transaction. Many times, also, we have students that they come back to us and saying that, but this is not how we wanted our name spelled and so on, which means that we need to reissue and revoke certificates. So this has been implemented also within our solution. So in order to go into a little bit, if I'm too technical, please stop me. We prepare the PDF file. The PDF file contains some metadata, such as the name of the student, the department, and so on. We organize them in a Merkle tree, a binary tree, and we hash the root of the Merkle tree on the blockchain. And in order, as I said, to avoid the multiple transactions. Then for the verification process, since we do not know which ID transaction the root that was issued has, before we send the PDF file to the individual students, again, what we do, we insert as part of the metadata in the PDF file the transaction ID so that it can be verified by our verifiers. So we're talking about a very simple procedure, a PDF file that anybody can see. And if it is the authenticated one, it will be verified by by the verifiers. And a similar process for the issuing and the revoking. I will skip this one. So just to conclude very briefly, I believe that blockchain-based certificates can provide in our times the answers to fake certificates and the related problems that we have mentioned before. And also they can lead to what we call also self-sovereign identity that we will be discussing later in the second part of this event. Thank you very much. So I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Soulla, for at least starting to show us how the academia is now arranging new technologies and new procedures to be able to ensure to all the employers like Carlos that the person they are hiring really has achieved what the graduate claims to have achieved. Let's proceed with Alexander Mikroyannidis, who is a research fellow in the Knowledge Media Institute of the Open University. He has a PhD in informatics and a Master of Philosophy, both from Manchester University, and a Bachelor of Engineering in Electrical and Computer Engineering from the University of Patras, Greece. He has research experience in the field of technology-enhanced learning and specifically in personalized learning and self-regulated learning and lifelong learning. He has been awarded and worked on a wide range of European nationally funded projects, including QualiChain, which is a Horizon 2020 project, and he's in charge of deploying and evaluating decentralized education and employment qualification with learners and educators. So maybe Alexander is now going to present another piece of the solution that the employees, that employers like Carlos really need. Please, Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Gabriella. Thanks everyone for joining this panel today. It's a great opportunity to discuss with you all the hot topics of regarding today's situation, the current situation and landscape in education, especially these really challenging times that we face because of the COVID pandemic. What the future holds for education, for micro accreditation, what are the next steps, where we should focus our efforts in order to provide the best services to lifelong learners, to help them, to help job seekers adapt to this very fluid and very fast-pacing economy. So in the first part, like the other speakers of this panel, I have separated, I have my presentation part, which I'm going to present, has to do with the highlights, some of the highlights from the landscape in education today. What are the short and long-term implications and impacts of the COVID pandemic in lifelong learning and in and also in the job market. And then in the next part, the second part, in the second round, I will talk about the future trends in education and specifically about some initiatives that are the decentralization of education and the decentralization using blockchain technologies of micro accreditation. So let me share my screen. Okay. Right. So first of all, a few words about who we are, what the Open University represents. So we are one of the largest universities in Europe. We have more than 170,000 formal students and several millions of informal students, informal learners that are studying our open educational resources and MOOCs. We have we attract 38% of part-time undergraduates in the UK, and we are truly open. We don't have any formal entry requirements. 33% of our undergraduates enter start a degree with the Open University with only one A level or less. We are also open to students that are disadvantaged or have disabilities. 55% of our students are disadvantaged students due to societal, economical, financial situations, and they are seeking for a second opportunity to study and improve their lives. 1 in 8 of our students also has a disability. 3 out of 4 of our students are already in work. They are mature students that are already a part of the workforce. They are seeking to better their lives, to improve their careers, to acquire a better job, a promotion, or even shift their careers to do something completely different. 66% of our undergraduates are over 25 years old, and we also have a very strong connection with the industry. We have FTSE 100 companies sponsoring their staff to attend our courses, and also more than 1,000 employers in the UK using OU learning solutions, OU courses to develop the skills in their workforce. Right. So as I mentioned earlier, in the first part of this talk, I'll highlight some of the crucial elements that the COVID pandemic has brought forward in terms of lifelong learning and education in general. So, as we all know, this pandemic has caused a global job market crisis. This crisis has brought forward the need for flexible accreditation and also for upskilling or reskilling the workforce, especially through micro-credentials. Micro-credentials are very rapidly gaining popularity. Even before the pandemic, they had a very rapid growth among lifelong learners because they address the needs for professional development and also for granular certified learning. So several educational institutions, including the Open University, are currently offering a continuously increasing range of micro-accredited courses, so that they can provide opportunities to job seekers to pursue further studies in a variety of specialized fields. Very recently, the latest 2021 EDUCO's report has featured the need to upskill and reskill current higher education instructors and staff, and also to create new positions to support the evolving needs of what Deloitte is calling a hybrid campus model. So according to this hybrid campus model, the fundamental element is of the new campus is the development of flexible academic programs that can be packaged and bundled to meet the needs of current and also future learners who are preparing for workforce needs that may not have even been identified yet. So as higher education institutions map the trajectory of their responses to current and also future workforce needs, it's quite clear that micro-credentials have the potential to become a foundational element for future strategic planning. Here in the UK, the British Academy has recently produced a study on the long-term societal impacts and implications of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in this report, renewed awareness of education is featured as a major societal impact in the long run. More specifically, the British Academy reports that the consequences of lost access to education at all levels, coupled with changes to assessments, will be unfortunately felt for years to come. And wholly recovering lost education is not feasible. This situation has made even worse the existing socioeconomic inequalities and has highlighted digital inequalities as well. So because we need a high-skill economy for future prosperity and for society to thrive, it will be vital to consider whether lifelong learning opportunities are sufficiently comprehensive, diverse, and flexible. So here at the Open University, we have been focusing on micro-credentials even before the pandemic. We have been offering a wide range of micro-accredited courses in collaboration with our partner, the FutureLearn MOOC platform. So we offer online courses that are 10 to 12 weeks long, and learners receive guidance from a dedicated group of study advisors. Learners also test their understanding with weekly quizzes and also exercises before they can submit their end of course assessment. After doing so, they finish their studies, they pass their assessments so that they can gain a professional credential, which they can use as evidence of specialized skills in order to progress further in their careers. So the Open University is continuously consulting with stakeholders and engaging the community to understand better their needs. Personally, I have been running a workshop series back in 2019, before the pandemic, in the context of major educational technology and open education conferences, where I ran dedicated sessions. I sat down with groups of researchers, educators, practitioners to understand through consultation exercises and group exercises, scenario building exercises, what are the current challenges faced by lifelong learners regarding their personal and also their professional progression. So I have grouped these findings into 4 major themes. The first one has to do with immutable formal and informal qualifications. Specifically, this has to do with the need for lifelong learning portfolios that aggregate both formal and informal qualifications, which can then be validated by employers and educational institutions. The second theme that has emerged from this consultation exercise has to do with lifelong learning pathways and micro-credentials. This reflects the need for learners to receive guidance and scaffolding in structuring, in building their pathways, their lifelong learning pathways, and in acquiring micro-credentials so that they can achieve their learning goals. The third theme has to do with career counseling, which is especially important in this fluid economy. It has to do with the need for job seekers to be provided with a comprehensive overview of the job market and the latest market trends so that they can shape their learning journey accordingly. And finally, the last theme that has emerged has to do with data ownership and privacy. This is very important for learners and job seekers to own their digital identity, the data in their portfolio, their assets, their credentials, and control who can access this data, who can access their identity, and in what ways and for how long. And this also has to do with self-sovereign identity that Soulla mentioned before. And in the second part of my talk, I will touch more on these themes and how they can be addressed through decentralization and through the use of blockchain technologies. So I'll stop sharing my screen for now.
Thank you very much, Alexander. And the fourth and last panelist is Sandra Suarez. She has a PhD in psychology by the Karolinska Institute, and she is currently the University of Aveiro Prorector, leading the university in pedagogical innovation, engaged learning, and internationalization. She is also involved in several European projects that aim to foster innovation in teaching and learning, namely the European Universities Initiatives. She has internationally recognized research and has published papers in international journals and has been involved in several funded research projects and is the coordinator of the Hemosenses Lab at the University of Aveiro. Sandra is going to show us what is the status and the point of view of her university on the topics that we have addressed so far. Please, Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gabriella, and thank you for the invitation. Thank you to the organization, and thank you to all of you who are listening to us here and discussing the future of micro-credentials. And for the other panelists, it was really a pleasure to understand what are you doing in your institutions, and I'll try to give in my presentation an overview what we are doing within the ECIU and which is the European Consortium of Innovative Universities, the Alliance, which was financed as a European university, and how that aligns with the efforts of the European Commission and all the questions we have to be solved, which are many. So I will share my screen. Okay, so as I was saying, the questions are many. There are many answers to be, many questions to be answered, and many roads, option of roads we can take. And to give you an overview or a roadmap of my ideas for this presentation, it first starts with the different roads for a conceptualization for what micro-credentials really are, because we're all talking about micro-credentials, but it's not that clear that everyone knows what micro-credentials are. And there is an effort from the European Commission and the ECIU to have a common definition and transparent definition. So I'll mention that. And then the driving forces for micro-credentials for this movement to be happening. And Gabriella mentioned a few as well as the other panelists. And then I will go into the ECIU university case. What are we doing? And we are doing some of the things you claim, for example, Carlos claimed to be relevant for the companies. So I'll present you with that. And then where are we heading? What do we need to solve? And most importantly, I would like to mention that I do think that micro-credentials are a tool at the service of an idea. And the idea is to upskilling and reskilling our community and to have solutions for lifelong learning, which I don't think we have, at least in a structured way so far. So there is this, indeed, this movement towards a common understanding of micro-credentials. I think you are all aware that there is a European approach to this. There has been a consultation group in which we, ECIU, were part of with the European Commission. There was a public consultation to this report, which was just concluded. And the idea is that the Council, by the end of this year, will launch a report, which we should all pay attention to. There are many definitions of micro-credentials, as I was saying, and one of the efforts of this consultation group led by the European Commission was to define what should be a shared common definition. And the main idea and the definition that was proposed by this group, consultation group, is that micro-credentials are proofs of learning. And someone mentioned that we need to have proofs of the quality that this was indeed achieved so that we can stamp a micro-credential. So a proof of learning outcomes that the learner has acquired following a short learning experience. And Carlos also mentioned this is quite relevant here. And of course, transparent standards is also a key topic here as well. so when we think about the driving forces, because this is not a new movement, but it clearly has become a very hot topic in the academia and in the countries. I was mentioning that micro-credentials should be a tool for an idea, for a goal. And the main goal, I would say, is to increase adult participation in learning. And there are many data showing that we do need to improve adult learning in our populations. It's also a time of fast transitions. Carlos was mentioning before that the universities don't accompany the fast transitions in the market, and we need to do so. And there is also a clear statement there is a skills gap in universities. So we do need to rethink how we can follow this fast transition and equip our students with competencies that we are not clearly not equipping them to have. And of course, then the pandemic was an accelerator for this digital transition. It's also there is also a career opportunities change in especially in some areas like the IT, as someone mentioned before. And because of all this, there's some claim that 2020 was the year of the MOOCs. The increase in attendance in MOOCs was enormous, as you can see for the numbers. So that if you consult, and I will leave some sources for you to consult if you have interest in understanding what's going on in this topic. We do need this reskilling, and there's also an obvious notion that some of the professions in the future don't exist yet. And we need to equip citizens with different skills. And there is obviously the skills gap, which I was referring to before. So based on this, the European Commission launched this European Skills Agenda with the different pillars and plans of action for that. And launch some programs and some main ideas which are relevant to what we are discussing today. One of them is, of course, have individual learning accounts or pathways. So different individuals might need different competencies, and they should be able to do so in their rhythm and depending on the competencies and skills they need to fill or fill the gaps they have. There is also this European standards for micro-credentials, as I was referring to before, and all this initiative towards a shared definition and plan of action by the European Commission. And also the European University is also in an initiative to get together universities and the companies and the external stakeholders and try to have a common ground, an European ground for this to happen. And this is where we stand right now. The ECIU, so the European Consortium of Innovative Universities, is an alliance with 12 universities in Europe, North, Center, and South of Europe, and also an associated partner in Mexico. And is one of the alliances which were awarded with the grant from the European Commission in the first call. And I would like to talk to you a little bit about what we are doing. And I think it's fair to say that we're quite committed with the European Commission. I think they really have, I think they really like our project because it's not specific to a specific scientific area, and because it's aligned with the movement they are launching around the micro-credentials. So within the ECIU, and after the European Commission launched the report I previously mentioned, we also within the ECIU launched our vision for what the future of micro-credentials should be, and what are the main concerns and pathways we should follow. And there is an obvious need for systematic change from the view of the ECIU Alliance. So skills and competences for life, that's something we all acknowledge we need. We need challenge-based higher education and outside national borders. So we need to have our education in a way that the students or the learners are able to have competencies which they are not being trained to have now. And we're doing a big effort in this challenge-based approach, which I will mention later on. Learning opportunities tailored for the learner's needs, as I was saying before. They should be flexible, they should be personalized, and they should be embedded in a learning or competence passport so that companies such as Carlos' company or others may be able to see the menu of competences that the learners have achieved throughout their life and even after they finished the university. And some might not finish the university, and that's okay. So learners need on demand, and again, and that's also, I mean, we do train a lot of competencies when we are enrolled in international and interdisciplinary education, and that's the idea with the ECIU, that we bring together this, that we have an ecosystem in which we bring together companies, universities, that we bring together different areas and different learners with different pathways. That's the main goal. We also acknowledge that standard degrees are not enough to give us access to this need for upskilling and reskilling. There is also an acknowledgement that collaboration with the community is, of course, needed, and we do so in Aveiro, and we have been doing so in the past, but we need to do more in this area, especially when we're talking about the upskilling and reskilling. There is also a need to improve the competencies of the learners in terms of languages, and because we are in this alliance with 12 universities, we believe learning new languages is also important for the learners. So we're having micro modules with different languages, offering different languages for our learners. And of course, we see micro-credentials as building blocks for challenge-based long life learning pathways, and very important with societal impact. So we need to have learners solving real life challenges, and that's the effort we're trying to do within the ECIU and the University of Aveiro in particular. So this is what I was referring to, the idea of an ecosystem within the ECIU universities in which industry, learners, NGOs, regions, municipalities, and university cooperate towards solving societal challenges. In this first steps we're doing within the ECIU in this alliance, we're focusing on Sustainable Development Goal 11. But of course, this is a start. The main idea, which I would like you to retain, is that the goal is indeed to solve societal challenges. So within the ECIU, we have, as I was saying, a goal, a mission, a vision, and the idea is to provide individual lifelong pathways, as I was saying, with challenges and micro modules, with all this ecosystem cooperating. And then we're also trying to think or planning what the best solution for the digital competence passport. So we're testing different platforms to try to understand and trying to do some lobbying with the European Commission as well, because it might be the case that there are many platforms going on, and we need to be as much as aligned as possible, so that then the employees may validate the competences that the learners will acquire during their pathways. So this is a scheme for this educational architecture for individual learning. So we have this ecosystem I mentioned, we have SDG 11 related challenges, we have micro modules, we have online resources, please pay attention to this idea that micro modules are supposed to be micro, are supposed to be flexible in terms of schedules, because we're bringing people who already work and they need to work throughout the day. And also they are going to happen online. I mean, we're planning on blended mobilities and so, but of course we're launching this online. And the idea is to have different options for different needs. So we're having online resources and we have teachers facilitating this, this process. These are some examples of so we have a platform in which we have the challenges from the society, from the companies, and we have micro modules. So this is the Tech in the City is one example of one challenge we launched. It just finished last week, or this week. It's by the Altes in Aveiro, in which we have learners from the different 12 universities. And the big idea was that this Tech in the City one. And then we have micro modules. We're preparing, we're launching in Aveiro, we're launching 8 micro modules for the autumn semester, which vary from 1 to 3 ECTSs. So that's a way to certify the quality of it. And we will have it in different areas, from machine learning to circular economy and design thinking and stuff like that. So these are, from our view, the key elements of educational pathways. They should be stackable. They should be credit bearing. That's relevant. And there should be a quality assurance within this process. And that's something we know the European Commission is struggling to have. So we need to have this, the employees should not have questions on the quality of what we are providing. And then, as I was saying, we were testing different platform solutions for this, because the idea then is that they should be portable and they should be possible to share. And we should also have this open co-creation. So we co-create with the society this challenge-based learning approach. And of course, we need to recognize the skills and competencies, as I previously mentioned. I don't know, Gabriella, if you want me to move to the questions we have to open the discussion, or I don't know what you prefer.
Thank you very much, Sandra. You may stop here and then we can do a second round of discussion. Okay. I invite the audience, if they wish to ask something, to raise their hands, and then I will say who's speaking. Otherwise, we can start the second round, in which I will call again our speakers to speak about how they see the future in this, let's say, business of micro-credentials. And before giving the floor to Carlos again, I will ask him a specific question. Is the scenario that the 3 speakers coming from the academia have depicted in line with the employees' expectation? Thank you, Carlos.
First of all, after seeing this presentation and the Sandra Suarez presentation, I think it's my fault not knowing that there are already so many courses accessible for us to choose. I know that the university has one with the municipality of Aveiro, because I have make the inscription yesterday from one guy, but the reality is very different. That I think, because I have idea that in our companies, in the industry, as we have a lack of people, the IT companies don't need people with courses. They have people with experience. That is important. I think I really enjoy being here, because I learn new things, a lot of things, and I got some ideas to do training in a different way. In Portugal, I think we have the Institute Employment Center. They have a menu of training, but the menu is not adapted to the needs of the company. I think the micro project, micro credential, I think is the future for training, because it's possible have people alone, single people, it's possible have the companies, and I think is the one way to, I think it's strategic. I think is Sandra or Alexander says that is strategic for the future, and I agree. I think is a good opportunity and a good approach for the future of lifelong training. Thank you.
If Gabriella, if I may say something to Carlos, it's not a shame that you don't know, because we're just launching this. And for now, we're starting with the learners, the students, and we're going to pilot the opening to the lifelong learners. So I would be very glad if we can exchange some words afterwards and try to see how we can connect efforts. Yeah.
And perhaps within over here, because it's a situation.
Yes, yeah, they're coming to an event which we will have held on Wednesday, in which we're connecting professors with companies. So yeah.
Good.
So it's nice to meet in the cyberspace, even if you are in the same area. And now, what about Soulla? What do you think the future is bringing us? Is this the right direction? What next moves shall we do? Please.
Gabriella, I think there are some questions before, if you allow me to do so. Carlo and Oscar have their hands raised.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah.
I didn't see the questions. So let's start with Carlo.
Okay, thanks for giving me the floor. Well, I would like just to be a little bit provocative, to let's say, to stimulate the discussion. And we have listened to a lot of interesting aspect of micro-credential, blockchain, and micro modules, etc. I fully understand the relevance of a micro-credential for the students, for the employees, and this is very clear. But it's not clear to me which could be the advantage for the companies. I mean, given the talk that has been given by Carlos, where they have to protect, in some sense, the human resources. And I do not understand to which extent the micro-credential, the micro-certification may be useful for the companies. So this is just what I have understood, is that the companies need micro modules, micro training, but not micro credential. That's my first, let's say, question. And then I up to now I realized that micro credential and also micro certification has been used mainly to, let's say, certificate diploma or sub-block of diploma. Indeed, the document that has been quoted by Sandra lead to the so-called micro ball. Okay, that is the micro credential for Bologna process. So indeed, if you read that report, is a sort of attempt to protect, let's say, the university system in some way. And actually, I think that we need a change in perspective. I mean, we should try to certificate, and this has been also said by Sandra some way at the end, we should try to certificate the competencies, not just to release e-certification of existing diploma or existing sub-blocks, because this is just bureaucracy fluidification, not more than this. And so, as you know, companies, headhunters like, for example, Ernst & Young, are looking more and more in competences, not in diploma. So my question is, are universities ready to go in that direction? I'm not fully convinced. At least my experience is not. But maybe you can you can have a different perspective from inside your own university. And I would like also to ask it, but here we have not a representative of even if the school will be ready for that, because we should start from school, not from universities. That's my contribution to the discussion.
Thank you, Carlo. And now let's listen to the question by Oscar, and then we can collect the answers.
Okay. Thank you, Gabriella. Actually, Carlo almost stole my question. It's related. I think, in fact, it's a little bit more specific than what Carlo is formulating. Alexander mentioned in his talk informal qualification, and of course, Carlos also mentioned he has employees with more than 20 years, 25 years, 20. You mentioned you also have employees that are in a certain point qualified by their experience in industry. Now, my issue would be, so if it's interesting, as Carlo was answering, if this micro credential is interesting for industry, not just like the micro module approach of learning something extra, how should this be certified? And how could this informal qualification that many of the companies already have, and they should at a certain point make out as evident, it could help not only to announce what a company has as a working force of competences, acquired competences in their employees. I think this would be important for a company to announce what they do have, but from the employees' point of view, they could also understand what they already have. It's recognized for some kind of micro-credential, maybe with industry and university having a protocol to understand how this could be recognized. But from the employee's point of view, it would be very interesting to know what they can add on as an upskill or reskill of what industry and university or higher education institution have recognized as an informal qualification. Okay, this is going a little deeper, I think, in your issue, Carlo. You had this at another level. This is very specific, but it seems to be an enormous challenge for what we are discussing here. And of course, recognizing what companies and industry already have, they recognize is important. But anyway, I'll leave the question for this opportunity of micro modules and micro credentials.
Thank you, Oscar. And I see a raised hand from Alexander. Is this for posing a question or for answering?
No, for actually trying to answer the questions from Carlo and Oscar. I think they are very, very much related, very much to the point. So my perspective is that I agree with first of all with Carlo that universities are not currently equipped to recognize informal learning. This is why this is actually bringing me to the next. This is actually a very good lead-in to the next part of my talk, where I will describe more our vision for a decentralized education and accreditation ecosystem, which is based on peer-to-peer assessment, on recognizing skills and achievements outside of universities, where universities are not the sole provider of certificates of accreditation. So this is my view. These are my 2 cents for the moment. I'll let the other speakers also give their response, and then I'll come back during my talk to the second part of my talk to expand on this.
Okay, thank you, Alexander. And now, if in order to answer to all the questions that have emerged and to make mutual comments between the panelists, I give back again the floor to Carlos Alves so that he can answer to the question and see his perspective for the future.
Okay, thank you, Carlo, for the question. I think the micro credential is good for the employee, but also for the companies, because if the companies has people with more degree, it's good for the image of the company, and also in the same projects, the project needs guys with qualification, formal qualification. For example, if you have a project for the European community or projects for us with the African people, they must send the curriculum of the guy, and if the formal if the course is with the credentials, I think is good for the company. And the companies need more like guys like specialists, and I think is good for this. But I agree that the experience alone is not enough. In one day, the guys that are all colleagues want to be certified as enologists. It's not possible. And I think we must have the theoretical part and everything. Thank you.
Continuing with the speakers round, is now the floor for Soulla, who has also raised the hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Gabriella. I was just going to mention first that as it has been already mentioned, micro-certification is informal learning, informal certification. And if, as Carlos has mentioned, then on the other hand, that they need for the projects formal certification, then we do have a conflict there. And because we're at the two opposite ends, which means that the universities themselves, they have to be able to, they have to somehow recognize these micro-credentials as part of their formal education in order to bridge this gap. And I think this is one of the major challenges that we're faced with now within the micro-credentials area. So that was my 2 cents, 2 satoshis. All right, just to go into the second part of this presentation, and discuss furthermore on the future of micro-certifications, the challenges that we're faced with. The move to online learning, especially this past 1.5 years with the pandemic, was sort of forced upon many institutions because of the pandemic. They didn't have any other ways to carry out their courses, which means that the challenges that we all faced, one might say that they're now sort of directing also at the same time the future of academic institutions and lifelong learning. So this is what I will focus for a few minutes on. So going back again to higher education, according to a survey done by the Erasmus Knowledge Alliances, perhaps some of you have participated in this one, it was just done a couple of months ago. The challenges, they're ranging from sustainability issues in terms of keeping our institutions green, that is environmentally sustainable, with low carbon emissions, so plastic free and so on, to promoting new forms of teaching and learning, to the digitization of higher institutions and higher education. The digitalization of higher education includes also at the same time this use of micro-credentials and micro-degrees to assist learners to achieve a wider recognition by academia and their prospect employers or their current employers. So at the same time, micro-credentials, can help higher institutions, higher academic institutions meet these increased demands that we have in certain skills. Carlos mentioned before the STEMs, and indeed there is a large gap in the skills there and competences that the industry needs right now. But one might say also, why would a higher education institution offer micro-credentials? This can be done for several reasons. For one, to increase the visibility and the reputation of the institution itself, to increase its responsiveness to the needs of the students and the market demands, and to experiment with new pedagogical technologies, and to generate at the same time additional income. Because as you know, quite a few of the higher institutions that are around are private entities. The same actually with the University of Nicosia. But of course there are challenges. The lack of quality control, given that this field is expanding very rapidly, the problem to overcome would be to ensure that all credentials have a practical value and seal of quality. And at the same time, it was also mentioned again by Carlos. Carlos, I'm taking all the different problems that you have mentioned that you have in the industry. And you said that you need soft skills. But how do we actually teach soft skills and we convey this in some sort of a certificate to have proof of learning for the soft skills? So this is one of the major challenges that I believe there is, and not only with micro-credentials, but in general when it comes to education. Now, moving enough about micro-credentials, I would like now to connect a little bit to the credentials, to the blockchain verifiable credentials and self-sovereign identities. Think of a world where you don't need to queue up to have a piece of paper released by the municipality of your city or by some other governmental authority, but you simply scan a QR code with your smartphone to show a trustworthy digital credential. Self-sovereign identity represents actually a major breakthrough, the impact of which will extend far beyond to what people typically think of what identity means. Going to the blockchain-based certificates and how this is related to the self-sovereign identities, again, think of a model, a self-sovereign identity model in which identity and anything linkable to an identity, such as a diploma or the micro-credentials or any other types of certificates, where control of those data are totally given back to the user, to the owner of the data. A central authority, for example, such as the government that issues identities, is not needed in order for such a system to work. And each verifiable claim, such as a diploma in this case, related to the user, is digitally signed and can be cryptographically proved by any verifier. We can verify data such as who is the issuer, for example, the university or the authority that issued the diploma, to whom it was issued, whether it has been altered since it was issued, and overall prove its validity. Over time, students and actually all of us acquire lots of different certificates through our lives from various events that we attend, our diplomas, taking courses, and so on. And all of these add up to our digital credentials and therefore to our digital identity that can be used by all of us. Of course, this means that we rely on technology, but such solutions could also contribute to the various SDGs because, for example, 1 out of 5 children does not have an actual identity issued by some sort of a government. I'm sorry about my dog, but she hears some noise outside. So we may be still some way there as we're looking towards, at this point in time, still the technology is kind of mature. A regulatory framework still needs to be in place. We need standards. We need to be able to protect the consumers, and replacing the existing infrastructure takes time and investment. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Soulla, for showing us a little bit of the problems ahead of us. And now the second part of the presentation from Alexander.
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, during this second part, I'll talk more about how, in order to build a decentralized education ecosystem. So let's see where we stand today. As we all know, learning happens increasingly outside the brick and mortar lecture halls of schools, colleges, and universities. It happens online, especially because of the transition to online learning due to the pandemic. It happens within communities of like-minded individuals, or by contributing to projects and initiatives in the real world. Learning is also far more international than it used to be. Key education players open campuses. Students travel to different countries to improve their employability aspects. And also in this networked, digitally empowered world, education providers often do not have a remit or the means and capacity to cover the range of activities learners engage with, which attest their achievements, their knowledge and skills. So ultimately, this means that the centralized education model that we have today is no longer sustainable. So the vision is an education model in which the awarding and also the validation of qualifications does not longer occur exclusively under the management of the education institution or of the employer. Instead, individual learners, students, teachers, and peers take ownership of the learning experience and its outcomes without at the same time compromising on the safety, security, and accessibility. So there are several European and national initiatives of blockchain technology to decentralize accreditation, decentralized education. I will focus on one of these, the Horizon 2020 European project called QualiChain, which the Open University and me personally are spearheading. The project is about decentralizing the verification and management of qualifications for the empowerment of learners, re-engineering education, and also transforming the public sector. The project has 4 focus areas where we are running large-scale pilots. The first area has to do with lifelong learning. This is the pilot. This is the domain that I am leading. The second focus area has to do with the smart and adaptive design of curricula in higher education. The third area is staffing the public sector, enhancing recruitment processes, the transparency of recruitment processes for hiring civil servants in the public sector. And finally, the fourth focus area of quality chain has to do with human resources services around competency management and improving these services with the use of decentralized solutions. So the overall objectives of this initiative have to do with the creation, piloting, and evaluation of decentralized solutions for storing, sharing, and verifying education and employment qualifications. Within quality chain, we assess the different aspects of impact of these decentralized solutions. We assess the technical, political, socio-economic, legal, and cultural impact. Specifically within the lifelong learning domain that I am in charge of within quality chain, we are looking to offer, first of all, transparent and immutable accreditation to lifelong learners. We are also looking to offer them personalized recommendations, for example, about micro-accredited courses, about job opportunities that match their skills or partially match their skills, generally to offer them some scaffolding and guidance in their lifelong learning journey, so that we support them in their personal and professional progression. And one final thing I would like to mention is a special issue that I am organizing as guest editor in the new Elsevier journal, Blockchain Research and Applications. This has to do with the topics around the quality chain project, and also generally about decentralized solutions for learner empowerment, education, and also public sector transformation. This is the deadline. The submission deadline is early next year. This is an open access journal, but there are no open access fees because the editorial team is taking care of those. So I would encourage anyone who is doing research related to these topics to feel free to get in touch with me for more information. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Alexander. And also thank you for sharing research and publishing opportunities, all the academics who need it. And to conclude the second round, Sandra, please, your second part of the presentation.
Yes. Okay, so I will move with more questions, and some of them were already posed by Carlos, whether universities are prepared for this or not, and there are different scenarios which we can build on the future of this relationship between universities and the private sector. So the key actions to which we are committed within the ECIU is to have an IT strategy for the ECIU University, and Alexander and Soulla mentioned the blockchain, and we're also working with blockchain and artificial intelligence also for the counseling for the learners to define their pathways. We're also working on the definition and operationalization of distinctive types of micro-credentials, and this also touches Carlo and Oscar concerns on the informal solutions we're having, or accreditation we're enabling or not. So within the ECIU, we're working with different types of micro-credentialing, and one of them is the informal. So we're just not focusing on the formal one, But of course, we need to understand how we're going to assess the competencies aligned with this informal actions that the learners are involved in, so that we can make this real. And then the processes for the formal recognition and development of micro-credentials is also important, that we're working on that, this alignment with the recognition of the 21st century skills, and also, quite importantly, with the European standards and guidelines. Another thing, of course, is the portability, as I mentioned before, the platform solutions, the incentives. That's something we all need to work on. The incentives to stimulate the update of micro-credentials. And I'm sure that the companies also have an important role here, because I'm not sure, and Carlos may help here, with this experience. I'm not sure if all learners understand that they do need to upskill their competencies, if you need to do have some type of incentives or something alike. Another issue, and that has to do with what Carlos was mentioning, is who will be the trusted providers? And this is a war between universities and FutureLearns and Coursera's and all alike. So I think if we think about the main goal of micro-credentials, and that was my point in the beginning of the presentation, if the goal is to increase adult learning, then we should be able to have private providers with, of course, all the rules for quality insurance, but we should be able to have private providers, as we do have already. But the question is, and I'll share a repository which has a presentation I think you should take a look at, in which a colleague has done a study on different scenarios that can happen in the future. He mentioned 6. And one of them is that universities and private providers will not talk to each other. Another one is that there will be like a Netflix approach. So learners will look of all the offering. And another one, independently of who's offering it. And another option is that, we are working within the ECIU, is that the universities have a direct interface and interconnection with the private sector, and they work together for this main goal, which is to get more adults with the qualifications. Then there are many questions to be answered, and we're working on this. Different sizes of micro-credentials, which may allow for flexibility and experimentation. We need to have different options for experimentation and flexibility, as I was saying. There is also an issue on whether we can combine micro-credentials within macro-credentials, for example, whether we can organize the courses within the degrees at universities in modules. And some of the modules may confer micro-credentials for the learners who come from outside the university. There's also this possibility. I was mentioning incentives, so motivation and support for the staff engagement and development of micro-credentials, which also leads to a big question, another one for the university, which is the business model for this. I'm sure most of us need to work on this part as well. And the European Commission is also working on this. What should be, and Soulla mentioned this as well, which should be the critical elements for discovering micro-credentials? Workload, if they award credits, ECTS, for example, or not, which are the learning outcomes and whatsoever. So it needs to be clear what are the rules, what are the elements that need to be involved in the micro-credentials. And then, of course, alignment with the national qualifications framework and the European qualifications framework. And I'm always going back to quality assurance standards. That's really important. And then, as I was mentioning, learning outcomes, workload, ECTSs, and so on. It would also be important that we could work on this being automatic, both for universities or for the private sector, the recognition, but we need to work on how this can be done. We also don't know, but need to think about how will employers be involved in defining which skills they need for specific jobs, and within a job, what are the skills they need to complement and competences they need to complement, depending on what they're doing and that they're aiming to do. And how to time, and that's something that has been touched upon before as well, how to time the micro-credentials in the student journey to make them relevant and fit it well with a degree program. And also, that also relates to what Soulla was saying, and I also mentioned before, which is if we're focusing on competencies, and if we understand that universities are not equipping the students as they should in terms of competencies, then we need to reframe the way in which we teach, right? So that we are able to give them those competencies. And that's the effort we're trying to do, investing in the faculty development program for the professors to be able to do and have all the support they need to be able to run challenge-based learning, problem-based learning, project-based learning. That's we think the way to go, one way to go. And then the investment, I was talking about the business model, and it's something we need to invest on or think about. Then, of course, the risk that micro-credentials are seen as a threat to traditional degrees. I think there is this concern, and there's a recent paper calling this a micro-credentialing craze. And this reflects this threat that some see to the traditional degrees, because, you know, there are big companies which are not demanding a degree to hire the employees. So that's something, this balance between the need for a degree and the need to invest in core areas within the curriculum versus the need to equip learners with specific skills and competences that equip them to or have them prepared to the job market. And then there is this risk and concern that whether the role of the university is only to prepare learners, students for jobs. Is this the only role of universities? There is also a big discussion regarding this. So there's some that claim that there is a risk that micro-credentials will tend to reduce higher education learning to skills and technical competencies. So that's something we need to take into account. Of course, we need to renew our focus on the cultivating soft skills and educate the learner to holistically to reinvigorate the value of the university diploma, as I was saying before. So to mitigate this skills gap, as we previously mentioned, focus on active learning methodologies, as I was saying. And in my view, this is my view, and from the forums I've been attending to and the discussions I've been attending to, we probably have this coexistence between traditional degrees and micro-credentialing. I don't think micro-credentials will replace traditional degrees. This is my view, but just launching some questions for the debate. And this is the observatory I was mentioning is by one of our ECIU partners, the DCU, Dublin City University. And there in the first, so the second reference is for the ECIU white paper on the future of micro-credentials. But in the first, you can find all the talks, all the documents regarding micro-credentials in case you want to take a look. And this is it, Gabriella.
So thank you very much to Sandra. Thank you very much to all the four speakers. And before, well, we almost finish in time. So if someone wishes to make further comments, there is maybe 10 minutes of extended time. To this respect, I would like to thank also Jose, who has been our technical assistant and has made this open debate to run smoothly without technical issues. Is there any conclusive question? Yes, of course. Carlo, you can start with your final question.
I have just a comment more than a question. I think that there is a fundamental problem that should be taken in account, and is the behind all the discussion below, let's say, all the discussion that we have already done up to now. That is the definition of the competencies. Of course, I mean the diploma. I mean the standard diploma, the standard certification will not disappear, because of course, I mean, no one is interested to sell or to provide knowledge. The knowledge is at the basis of abilities, and the abilities and knowledge are at the basis of the competencies. The problem is that usually this happens very often also in the university. Most of the teacher that should change their way to teach, but they are not able to define abilities and competencies. They make still a lot of confusion between these two different categories. So I think that also, because there are a lot of framework scheme all around. For example, just think to what soft skill means. Okay, usually I use the life skill as a framework, but there is a big amount of confusion. Then how you can certificate anything if you cannot define it? So just to, as a conclusive comment, let's say.
There is another comment from Oscar.
Yes, I would just want to introduce this last line that Sandra gave us as food for thought, and also related with something that I had a previous discussion with Carlos, and I think they are related. I agree, Sandra, that looking at what the history of curricula and the university programs have brought us, it's a body of knowledge that I don't think will be thrown away. And in fact, what we are discussing here with this opportunity of the micro-credentials supported by micro-modules is something different. It's something that has to do, and I agree that lifelong learning is the other concept that really goes hand in hand with the micro-credential and micro-module. Not the only concept, but that is the most important concept that we have. And going back to the curricula and to this more traditional offer that universities have been doing along ages, relates to something that Carlos mentioned to me in one of our previous conversations, which is with these micro modules, clusters of companies like Inovaria, where Carlos is now in the board, they could in fact look at the micro modules menu and propose to the university a program that's interesting for some kind of lifelong learning or specific competences that cluster of companies need. This is almost like the curriculum that, in another sense, universities have been building on, but companies could also have the opportunity to define that. I don't know, Carlos, if you want to develop on that a little. We shared that, well, we could have the opportunity of having a program that a cluster like Inovaria would need, supported by soft skills or some other skills or competences, like Carlo was mentioning, all this confusion between one and the other sometimes. But Carlos, well, I'm directing this to you, but of course, anyone else that wants to comment on this.
Okay, first of all, Louca speak about the soft skills. I think for me, it's very, very important, the soft skills. Sometimes it's most important than the technical skills. But I think we can create, or depends of the culture of the company, the interior culture of the company. For example, here we during the year we have several moments to share our ideas from responsibility, teamwork, innovation, ethics, transparency, and so on. We use different ways. Sometimes with flyers, sometimes with games, digital games, in the mobile phones, and this is a way to share our culture. For example, in the GFA, during 22 years, we don't have one guy responsible for the women research, because when we want one person, we talk with the guys in the company. Oi, I need another guy. Find me. And when this new guy comes, the old guy is like a tutor from them and share all the vision of the company, the way that we work, the responsibility, and so on. And for Sandra, I think the incentive to the micro models here in the GFA, normally we pay the hours of the employee, we pay the course, we pay the hotel and everything. I think is a good approach. And sometimes no. In the future, when there are new projects, this is an opportunity for these guys to was involved in the new project. Using for the Novaria, we are working in that. We have talked with Pedro Fonseca from DETI and also Nuno from Nuno Borges Carvalho from the IT, the Institute Telecommunications Institute. And they are working there because we have a lack of people. We have all the companies. We have a meeting every month with all the associations, with all the members of the association, and this is a problem that is always talking. And now we are preparing some ideas what to do. We are also working with the Observatorio de Emprego from the university. And we have ideas, and next week, perhaps I can send you a mail to Sandra and to you and share some ideas and what we can do in the future. But I think the way is from this way, from the microcredits, because the people don't have time to have a course of 3 years. We must have share these 3 years, cut in small portions during the year. I think is the approach. And then one more time, I really enjoy being here.
Okay. So there was a question on the chat about research bootcamp. Do you think that research bootcamps can be a useful way to overcome the problem of distance between employers and universities? This is not just for micro-credential, I would say. I think the question is to Carlos and then to some of the other academics.
Yes, I think is a. I need to say one thing. I think the universities don't sell well the image of the university. I think the university has a capacity to mobilize, but they don't put these in actions. Okay, I know that sometimes they are in the fairs, they are promoted some.
May I just clarify the question? It's because I don't see the raising hand and couldn't make the question and explain it. It was because I noticed in the discourse, and this is something that made me thinking about the employees. They had difficulty in seeing the theoretical part of the classes in order to get takeaways to what they are doing. And sometimes as researchers, we are researching some topics that and contextualizing what has been done, but we also need to have that knowledge, how it's being done in the industry, and get that knowledge in order to understand what we are researching. So I think that both entities are interested in the industry, knowing what is the new knowledge, what is innovating and something, and the researchers also from the industry, what is being done, what are the necessities. So both parts are interested. And I would like to know the perspective if research bootcamps could be a way in order to get closer, things that are more directed to certain topics. That was what I wanted to know.
Thank you, Liliana. Carlos, your question, and then I see raised hands from Sandra and Soulla, and the time is over.
I think the bootcamp is good for the companies too, because it's an opportunity to share ideas and to understand more. I think here in the city of Aveiro and in over here, there are moments during the year to share, for example, when the final project of the course and so on. Sometimes we are invited to go to the university and to understand what they are doing. And but I think the university can do more in the future. They can share more what they are doing, because sometimes we try to have a solution for a project, and the solution is in the door 20 kilometers away from here, that my company to university. And sometimes we don't know well what the university are they doing in the research there. Sometimes for me it's easy because I'm a member of Innovaria. I spend some time in the PCI and also in the city, and I have friends there are teachers, and it's more easy. But for companies that work in ceramics and metallic parts and bicycles and so on, it's more difficult. And the university needs to improve the share of with the community. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now, Soulla, what was your raised hand?
Yes, thank you, Gabriella. I think what we are all talking about, I mean, both Carlos and Liliana, what they have raised is that there is a gap in the dialogue between universities and the industry. So we do need activities to mitigate this gap between us. So of course, research bootcamps will help to bring us closer together. Of course, in terms of research bootcamps, it depends on the industry. I think a lot of other types of industries, they're more interested in the applications. We could be looking into hackathons. I think it was Oscar that mentioned before, okay, to enhance the dialogue in terms of discussing with associations such as Innovaria of, what do they need in terms of training? What do they need in terms of micro-credentials? So we need a list of different activities that will bring us together, all the different stakeholders in this area. Thank you. And it was very nice, being here with all of you, both the speakers, the panelists, and the participants. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Soulla. And the last raised hand belongs to Sandra.
Thank you, Gabriella. Just to reinforce what Soulla was just saying about the dialogue, that we need to work to further work on the dialogue between companies and researchers and professors, and we're trying to do the first steps, or try to create a structure that makes this more natural at University of Aveiro. But I would also like to mention that I think that this relationship should be built from the very beginning, so from when they are doing their degrees, and that's when we go again to the type of methodology we use, if it's PBL, if it's CBL, and if if it involves this work with the companies from early on, that will make this relationship easier. And also the type of degree we arrange. For example, now we're working on degrees that already have this within the curriculum. So this relationship between the companies and the university, for example, and talking about the doctoral degree, for example, in the DBI, the Doctoral in Business Innovation, in which people people who are already in the companies are doing their PhDs, but we have other examples from the bachelor as well. So I think that's we should start early with this relationship, I think. And just to mention something Carlo touched upon, the transversal or soft skills. It's a hurdle. I do agree. And again, I think we need to work with the professors as well and decide on a framework, for example, the ESCO framework or some type of framework, so that we are all talking about the same things. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess. Absolutely. Thank you, Carlo. And thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure to be here.
So I am now ready to conclude this debate. I hope everyone got something back to bring home. And I thank everybody for sharing their view and making a little step ahead in the long-lasting dialogues between academics with different backgrounds and the rest of the world. Goodbye, and thank you for my part.
Bye-bye, be safe.
Bye-bye, keep safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.